You think you clicked the right ones, but didn't put them in the right order?
Yeah.
Okay. But you think you did the same thing
It was only on the first
on the
Yeah,
first one?
that was the same for me too.
because I submitted it and then you sent it. I was like, well.
Can I throw my bag away? Okay.
Right, are you done?
One side.
1 sec, okay. Here, are you finished?
No.
Gonna time you out here shortly.
No, I am.
Okay. All right, I would like, you're also, get out a pen, just not a black one. Because you are going to grade.
I don't have.
Okay, you're gonna grade your papers, so we're looking for this one, the one that has Kansas History Chapter 4 compromise on it.
I'm gonna see if I maybe accidentally put, because I remember putting it in the bin. I know what I did. I think I gave it to Miss Schwartzbeck because because one time I had to do an advisory, and she made me get my book and stuff and bring it in there. And when at the end of the day, she made me leave it in there so she would bring it back herself.
Yeah, because you brought it back with all of these bags. I didn't get all of these.
Little girl.
I'm gonna get it back at the end of lunch, okay?
So that's probably why I don't have it.
Okay, so you're going to, if your answer is wrong, I expect that you correct it. I'm on the compromise side first. In the Missouri Compromise, it banned slavery. You don't have to have them in this order, but it banned slavery north of 36 degrees, 30 minutes north of that line, that parallel line. So it banned slavery above 36:30. Maine was admitted as a free state. Missouri was admitted as a slave state. And when they added those two states, they wanted to add them two at a time, one free, one slave, so that it would maintain the voting power. Okay, so there are 4 different reasons in the first column. The second column, Compromise of 1850. California was admitted as a free state. The Fugitive Slave Act was part of that. And all citizens were required to help recovery of runaway slaves. So those are the 3 in that column. The last column, Stephen Douglas played a major role in the development of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. People were allowed to vote about slavery, popular sovereignty, one of the most important documents in the U.S. history, and they believe that it led to Bleeding Kansas and then the Civil War. This page was worth 12 points. Now you can either say minus how many you got wrong, or you can say plus how many you got right. But there's a total of 12 points on this page. And it's going to be of benefit for you to have the correct answers written in there. Okay, on the other side,
Hang on.
this page is worth 25 points. 20 points for the chart and the other 5. I'm going, yeah.
If I'm more available, like anti-slavery and for slavery, does it count as half?
If you mark 2,
What?
Yeah.
each box is worth 1 point. Each box that you get correct is worth 1 point.
Okay, that's
Okay? Under the Topeka Constitution. You okay?
No, she's not.
Okay. I coughed. Turn your paper
Uh-huh.
on. Let's go.
How did you not hear her? That is.
What are you doing? You're supposed to be adding answers to the paper and be worried about yourself.
I never wrote nothing. I wasn't here.
All
I know,
naughty
you're
words.
supposed to be
banned.
adding the answers. All right, under the
All
Topeka
naughty words.
Constitution, the majority of representatives to the Constitutional Convention were anti-slavery. If they were anti-slavery, that means that they wanted slavery prohibited. So that second box down is yes. And white men made up all the rules. White men made up all the rules?
Yes.
So, were they allowed to vote? Yes. They wanted to suppress everybody who they thought could be a threat to them and their way of life. African men were allowed to vote? No. Women were allowed certain rights? No. Under the Lecompton Constitution, the Compton Constitution was pro-slavery. So that means that slavery was not prohibited. That's a no. They wanted to have slavery. Allowed white men to vote? Yes. Allowed African men to vote? No. Allowed women certain rights? No. Under the Leavenworth Constitution, they were anti-slavery. Slavery was prohibited? Yes. White men were allowed to vote? Yes. African men were allowed to vote? In this one is yes. Women were allowed certain rights? No. In the Wyandotte Constitution, anti-slavery? Yes. The first one. Slavery was prohibited? Yes. White men allowed to vote? Yes. African men allowed to vote? No. Women allowed certain rights? Yes. Okay, yes.
For the women, was it like only white women? Or like black women?
I don't, that's a very good question.
Only vote.
My gut instinct would be only white
White.
women. But I don't know.
I couldn't vote. Shucks,
All
Mom.
right, match the following. The Topeka Constitution was B. Congress questioned if the members of the convention had the legal authority to write a constitution. For the Lecompton Constitution, that was C. Congress questioned if it represented the will of the people. Leavenworth Constitution was D. It failed to gain support in Congress. And the Wyandotte Constitution was A, not accepted by Congress until the southern states seceded. Secede means go away. They seceded. Okay, what constitution became the Kansas State Constitution?
Wyandotte.
Wyandotte Constitution. This page was worth 25 points.
Wait, Mr. There's a question.
Yes.
So, with this one, I put that one and their one. Their female ones, 2 points.
I'd say 1. Okay, now you're going to take, I think, let me go check. Gonna get your vocab ready. Get your vocab, go back into Schoology, and the second one, vocab part 2. Take that.
What?
You're gonna go into Schoology, vocab part 2, it should be the second one down. second one down, vocab part 2.
Lights on for you. Is that on the live stream? I know I'm screen sharing. I said I'm screen sharing.
You told me to stop by. And then she sits there like a bump on a log. Say hi.
All I heard was hi.
Once again, once you get finished with that, close your computer screen. And you can put your computer underneath your desk. We're done with it.
Ain't no way. I'm gonna rip my other nail off. Freaking Wyatt ripped my nail off my finger. He ripped this one off. Yeah.
You got credit for it? Check for it?
Huh? He tried to trip me last. I tripped him a couple of days when he face planted in the cafeteria.
Yes.
I got extra credit, guys. So a star if it's good, a check mark if it's wrong.
Okay.
Good job, Rylan.
Boy, I'd never put a star takes too long to do it.
What is the password?
All righty, we are going to grade the packet right now. And if you don't have pieces done, that's why you have a pen. You are going to write in the correct answers or the incomplete ones in pen.
Okay.
All right, so we're right here. And we're working on the graphic organizer. The first thing was it's inside the box, the definition of pro-slavery. Someone who supports the practice of slavery. So something on that order. All right. Anti-slavery, someone who is opposed or against the practice of slavery. So if you have something They don't have to be exactly those words, but if you have something that means the same thing, you get credit for it. Now, people who were pro-slavery, David Rice Atchison and Samuel Jones. Terms, border ruffians and bushwhackers. That means the other things are on the bottom. The people, John Brown, James Lane, Charles Robinson, anti-slavery people. And anti-slavery terms, abolitionists, free staters, and jayhawkers. So, this page was worth 12 points. However you're doing it. Number right, number wrong, just do that so that we can get a total at the end.
How much is it?
12 points. Each thing was worth 1. Then the next page was the fill in the blank one. So settling the territory. The Kansas-Nebraska Act opened the land for settlement. Some people assumed Nebraska would end up as a free state and Kansas would be a slave state. People who believed slavery was wrong were called abolitionists. Free staters were people who did not want to see slavery expand into the territories.
So what was it?
Pardon me?
For the, what people who did not want to see.
Where was abolitionist?
So first one is settlement, second one is slave, third one is abolitionist, fourth one is free staters.
Dang.
All right, pro-slavery voices. Many Southerners felt that slavery should be extended into Kansas territory. Pro-slavery supporters were nervous that anti-slavery settlers were moving into Kansas territory, and if slavery were banned in Kansas territory, it would threaten slavery in other parts of the country. Anti-slavery voices. Many people came to Kansas to fight against slavery. Why aren't you filling them in? That's your job right now, fill them in with your pen. Anti-slavery forces felt the pro-slavery South was moving the United States government towards legalizing slavery on a national level. Slavery in Kansas. Slavery existed in Kansas territory, but on a much smaller scale than in the South. The Underground Railroad was part of the Kansas territory. It was a network of safe houses that helped slaves escape. Bleeding Kansas. The fight over slavery in Kansas territory eventually erupted in violence. National attention was focused on the violence, giving the name Bleeding Kansas. A siege on Lawrence was part of the Wakarusa War. An attack never happened, but it became a news story across the country. The Potawatomi Massacre. John Brown led an attack and the killing of 5 pro-slavery men near Potawatomi Creek. The Marisine Massacre was the last major violent act. Pro-slavery men captured and killed some free staters. National attention on the massacre increased tensions across the country. And then on the other page, John Brown was a well-known abolitionist. a deeply religious man, believed in freedom and equality of all men, was willing to use violence to end slavery, followed 5 of his sons to Kansas Territory, and became a national figure. All right, all of those on the page before in John Brown are worth 25 points together. So again, either number right, number wrong, just be consistent. 25? 25.
What's just the next two?
Then we have the fill in the blanks at the end. Those are gonna be worth 44 points. I'm giving you one, if you took time and copied the name down. Give you another one if you checked correctly, anti-slavery or pro-slavery, and 2 points for what you wrote on the blank. If you mostly got the information that I got, you get 2 points. If you're missing something, you get 1 point. If you're way off or didn't write anything, 0 points. Yours may not be in this order, so you might have to search for them. First one I'm looking at is John Brown. John Brown was anti-slavery. He was an abolitionist, kind of a terrorist. He was willing to use violence to end slavery. David Rice Atchison. He was pro-slavery. He was a Missouri senator who encouraged pro-slavery settlers to come to Kansas. So he lived right on the border between Kansas and Missouri, and he tried to get a group, as many Missouri people to cross the border, go into Kansas Territory.
Wait, what?
Huh? He was pro-slavery?
He was a Missouri what now?
He what?
He was a Missouri what now?
Senator. He was a Missouri senator. And why would he want people to come? Because they were letting the Kansas people, the people who settled in Kansas, decide whether it was going to be a free or a slave state. So he wanted to get more people who were pro-slavery over here so that they would have the opportunity to vote and get Kansas to be a slave state. Ann Clark. Ann Clark was anti-slavery. She was actually a slave in Lecompton, and she escaped using the Underground Railroad. So Ann Clark, anti-slavery, was actually a slave who escaped via the Underground Railroad. Pencil down, you don't get credit for getting these when you didn't do them. Pardon me? She's anti-slavery, yeah. Slave from Wisconsin, or from Lecompton, she escaped using the Underground Railroad. Sam Jones. Sam Jones was pro-slavery. He was the sheriff of Douglas County. He attacked and burned newspaper offices and other office buildings. He was a Sam Jones, pro-slavery. He was the sheriff of Douglas County. He attacked and burned newspaper offices and other office buildings. The newspaper offices that he attacked probably were ones who were putting out information and that were anti-slavery. And he didn't want those publications to get out. You okay?
Yeah, what did he attack again?
He attacked newspaper offices and other office buildings.
Okay.
James Lane. James Lane was anti-slavery. James Lane was anti-slavery. Pardon me? If you think you're missing a little piece, then -1. James Lane was an Indiana senator who organized 400 settlers to move to the Kansas Territory. So he's anti-slavery. He got 400 settlers together and got them to move to Kansas. So he's a little bit like,
David Rice.
he's a little bit about David Rice Atkinson, right? Only on different sides. They both tried to get people to move to Kansas so that Kansas would become the kind of state that they were in favor of. Clarina Nichols. Clarina Nichols was anti-slavery. She was an abolitionist, and she fought for women's rights. You read anything back then? Women had no rights. They would do the work, like say they lived on the farm and things like that. If let's say they got a divorce, she would get nothing. Even if she spent 20 years helping work the soil, all this stuff, she would get nothing. She got no property. She was not an owner of any of the property from the marriage. Garrett, why don't you stand up? You're not doing what I asked. How many people do you have written down so far? All right, Andrew Reeder. He was anti-slavery. He was the first Kansas Territory governor. So before Kansas became a state, they were a territory. He was the first governor of the Kansas Territory. He believed in popular sovereignty. He believed that people should be able to govern themselves. Vocab. You're going to staple them together. There's a stapler on the back desk and there's one up here. And then you're going to keep your papers because you're going to use them to study tonight.
Do you want me to just staple these two together since I didn't have mine? Huh?
Pardon? You got a test tomorrow, yes. You got a test tomorrow over this stuff.